Across the United States, there are just places people instinctively avoid without really knowing why. A farmhouse that sits just a little too still, a dark stretch of road that somehow seems longer at night than it should be, a house where the silence feels, well, occupied. Now, most of these places, they never make the evening news. They live entirely in hushed conversations, passed from one person to another, usually late at night. Well, today, we are going to step into those shadows. We're opening the investigator's casebook to look at early records, local accounts, and official investigations of stories that absolutely refuse to fade away.
And those late-night conversations I just mentioned? They're almost always followed by this exact sentence. You probably won't believe this. In this explainer, we're digging into specific American cases drawn from a much larger collection of unique historical records. Some of these were officially dismissed. Some were literally never explained. When stories survive for centuries, it's usually because they were repeated so often they just sort of morphed into legend, or because something about them simply refused to disappear. We're interested in the ones that don't fade.
So, our mission today is exploring the space between documentation and belief. Because as an investigator, what I look for isn't just a scary campfire story. I'm looking for the surviving facts. In a lot of these cases, the details get muddy over time, right? Names are forgotten, locations get blurred, but every so often, a story stays perfectly intact. The dates remain rigid. The witnesses are clearly documented. The descriptions match up, even years apart. These are the cases that really draw our attention, not because they're easy to believe, but because the raw data makes them incredibly difficult to just brush off.
Section 1, Case File, The Bell Witch. Our investigation begins down in rural Tennessee, near the Red River, right around the year 1817. A farmer named John Bell lived there with his family.
By all accounts, it was a completely ordinary life, built around land, livestock, and a daily routine. But that predictable reality took a massive turn, and the raw data actually forms a pretty disturbing timeline. In 1817, Bell reportedly saw an animal in his fields that he just couldn't identify. He described it as part dog, part something else. He fired his weapon at it, and it vanished. Now, at first, that didn't seem like a big deal, but soon after, things escalated drastically. By 1818, disturbances inside the actual home intensified and a literal voice appeared. By 1820, this whole bizarre chain of events culminated in John Bell's totally unexplained death.
What really stands out in the records is the specific progression of the reported anomalies. It didn't just start with grand supernatural displays. It started really small, light knocking on the walls at night, scratching sounds that were irregular yet felt very deliberate. The family searched the house top to bottom and found absolutely nothing. Then, it started following them. Footsteps across the floor, bed sheets being physically pulled off them while they slept. The kids were waking up terrified, claiming something was speaking to them. And eventually, it did. A clear, disembodied voice emerged, speaking directly to the family. Sometimes it was calm, and sometimes it was incredibly hostile.
In fact, one early account records the entity saying this exact phrase: "I once was happy, but I have been disturbed and made unhappy." And get this, neighbors were actually invited into the home to witness this phenomenon for themselves. Some of them claimed they heard it too. Others left totally unconvinced that it was supernatural, but they were still deeply unsettled by whatever it was they experienced.
So over the next 3 years, the activity didn't just fade away, it ramped up, and it really seemed to single out the patriarch, John Bell. The culmination followed this deadly sequence. John began suffering from totally unexplained symptoms, this sudden weakness and declining health. Then, in 1820, a strange vial of liquid was found inside the house. According to the family's accounts, when they tested this liquid on an animal, it caused immediate death. And finally, witnesses claimed the voice actually took credit for Bell's death. Then, by the early 1820s, the activity just abruptly stopped. No clear explanation, just silence.
Now, the Bell Witch is actually a retroactive label. According to folklorists who study early American hauntings, this case stands apart for one very specific reason. Most legends, they grow and exaggerate over time, but this one didn't start as a legend. It started as a series of claims that were recorded as they unfolded through letters, journals, and real-time testimonies. Most legends take centuries to exaggerate. This one apparently decided to skip the wait. Now, obviously, that doesn't make it inherently true, but it makes the historical data highly unusual.
Section 2. Analyzing the early records. When stories survive for over 200 years, we really have to look at them objectively. We have to separate the raw historical data from the folklore that evolved around it, and the surviving data
leaves us with two distinct, competing profiles. On one hand, we've got the early recorded claims, multiple witnesses, real-time journals, and remarkably consistent patterns. People describe the exact same knocking patterns, the exact same physical disturbances. Some even claim the entity could predict events. But on the flip side, skeptics argue these exact same details point to something entirely grounded in reality. Things like group suggestion, intense psychological stress in an isolated 1800s community, or even a carefully constructed deception that just went way too far. Fear spreads quickly, and fear has a pattern. In this case, the consistency of that pattern is exactly what makes the record so fascinating to study today.
Section 3. Case File, The Mothman. This file takes us to a place where the line between story and reality gets even harder to trace. We're fast-forwarding to West Virginia, 1966.
A small town near the Ohio River. It was a place of routine. Quiet, predictable, but the events that happened there unfolded in a tight, rapidly escalating sequence. It all started on November 15, 1966. Two young couples were driving late at night just outside town near this abandoned industrial site, and they reported the first sighting. From November 1966 to November 1967, nightly sightings spread across the entire community. And then, on December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed.
Let's go back to that very first night for a second. The witnesses described seeing something standing near the road. It was a tall, dark, unmoving figure. At first, they actually thought it was just a man, until it moved. The descriptions really capture their terror. They said it unfolded like something waking up, revealing these wide, unnatural wings. Its eyes reflected red in the headlights. They drove away as fast as they could, but they claimed it followed them. It wasn't running, it was flying, effortlessly keeping pace with a speeding car down a pitch-black rural road.
When they finally reached town, most people understandably didn't believe them. But within days, more reports started flooding in. Different witnesses, different locations, but the exact same description. The sightings continued for over a year, always at night, always very brief. And then came December 15, 1967. The reports abruptly stopped. On the very same evening, the Silver Bridge collapsed into the river during rush hour traffic. 46 people died.
In the tragic aftermath of that, we see a massive split between human belief and official reality. Witness beliefs deeply connected the two events, suggesting the sightings were some kind of supernatural warning of the impending tragedy. But the official investigation found a completely physical explanation: structural failure, corroded metal, and a catastrophic chain reaction of stress on the bridge. Yet for the people who claimed they saw that figure in the dark, a structural explanation just didn't feel complete.
And here again, we see the sheer power of a name. The figure became known to the world as the Mothman. But look closely at this definition. It's a name assigned to the tall, winged figure only after the sightings had spread. Much like our first case in Tennessee, it perfectly demonstrates how legends evolve from brief, unexplainable experiences. The retroactive label is what pushes raw, confusing documentation right into the realm of permanent folklore.
Section 4. Between experience and explanation. Whether it's a farmhouse in 1817 or a creepy industrial stretch of road in 1966, these cases survive.
And they survive because they sit right on the boundary line of what we can actually prove. These cases are not fully proven, for sure, but they are not fully dismissed either. They rely on witness statements, old newspaper reports, and official investigations. They're like pieces of a giant puzzle that seem to fit together, but never quite lock into place. And honestly, that's exactly where these stories tend to live, enduring precisely because the human mind desperately wants to lock that final piece into place.